T says, "Do you not have anything to offer us for the inconvenience of us loaning you our slaves so you can profit from them?" Dagny says, "Greetings, healer Mackenzie. Welcome home." Andy 25 Berlin says, "I haven't thought of that, but we can agree, I am sure." Ashley says, "Tell Mackenzie." Dagny says, "Greetings, Count." Ashley says, "Tell Count." Godin says, "Tell Mackenzie hugs my healer." Corlink says, "Tally's Lady Z." Mackenzie says, "Smiles, tell Dagny and Ashley and Godin and everyone." Tease points to the Norseman village. "We have a tavern there, you realize, where the slaves work and earn for us and we get all the profits. I may have spare slaves that I can set to work elsewhere, but it needs to be worth the while of the Valkyries."
Socrates Dionysios says, "Tal persons just arrived, Tal."
Andy 25 Berlin says, "Tell lady." Corlink says, "Tell Count." Count bows to all those about and deep in respect to the chieftess and seeing says and Tor, and traders and more. I pause and mildly look with surprised face.
Talol.
T says, "Tell Count." T says, "Tell Mac." Dagny says, "To bring our brother and sister up to date, this man Andy is a tavern keep from Gimli. He has come to ask us to loan him one of our bonds or thralls to serve, I suppose nude and be available for use, if you know what I mean. Our head slaver Tease isn't keen on that idea, so the negotiations are ongoing." Andy 25 Berlin says, "You have so many beautiful women, looks Godin up and down. Why not try out with one first?" Sarah says, "Greetings, Master Mistress." Godin says, "Shoot arrows with my eyes." Mackenzie says, crinkles her nose, "Any bond or thrall who goes there to serve must be examined when they get back, as if they are a new slave."
Socrates Dionysios says, "Who is going to cover the cost?"
Andy 25 Berlin says, "That is only a small cost." Count listens to his chieftess and then adverts eyes to the man whom T spoke with, then a stoic look of pondering to see what the proceedings would reveal.
Socrates Dionysios says, "Who is going to pay?"
James shakes his head, then looks at Tease. Oftentimes, slavers in cities have someone to dot people. Andy 25 Berlin says, maybe your healer live in the brothel a night and day per moon. Mackenzie says, goes and stands protectively in front of Sarah. Dagny says, if I may interrupt, Andy, there are other ways we might accommodate your request. You could work in the Raven's Loft Valkyrie Long Hall and work with a bond or thrall there. I'm not sure that might be what you seek. But again, this is up to our head slaver here. Andy 25 Berlin says, that sounds interesting, so you get to know me better. Corlink says, I heard from Lena, the Gimli administrator, the tavern is dangerous these days with getting raped by Satoshi the Lart.
Soriel chuckled. I suspect he thinks a free panther would want to become a slave in the Gimli tavern, which is either very brave to suggest or very unwise.
Andy 25 Berlin says, we have armed guards now. James says, agreed, sir. Corlink says, no wonder some girls left the joint. Tease looks at him again as he eyes my sisters, again narrowing my eyes at him. You know, when you leave here you are fair game for any of my sisters to bring down, so if you look at any of them the wrong way, don't be surprised if you are subject of a hunt. So my advice to you is stay focused on the reason you are here. That's the only reason you are standing right now and not kneeling and calling me mistress. Andy 25 Berlin says, laughs, not the only reason that I am done with days under a collar. Ashley says, are you sure about that? James says, tease, do you mind if I dot people? Tease says, now, as you say, we don't know you. You don't offer any collateral as security for the safe return of our slaves, nor do you offer any guarantees that they would even generate profits. Andy 25 Berlin says, I haven't seen them make it, so I can't estimate what price we can ask for. Corlink says, that I had a hunch about this boy. T says, what Dagny suggested was a good idea. Get to know us, get to know me, work in our tavern, you get compensation as per any barkeep, earn my trust, and we will work something out. James says, as a reminder, he's small enough for me to throw out of the camp. And don't forget he was looking to sell slaves as well. Tease nods to James and smiles at him. Andy 25 Berlin says, deal, I agree, and we can start now. So where is your tavern? Mackenzie says, looks at Adrian closely, and she opens a chart book and begins flipping through pages, looking from him to the pages. Dagny says, we'll see about that, James. I'm with Tease. I think getting to know you better, having you work in our long haul first, might be the way to start a Valkyrie relationship with you. Again, I defer to my head slaver. Goodin says, Mackenzie, I suggest a full sweep of shots before he handles any of our drinks or food. Andy 25 Berlin says, I am healthy.
Socrates Dionysios says, let Mackenzie be the judge of that.
James says, I agree with Goody's assessment. Godin says, no one is healthy unless Mackenzie says they are healthy. Mackenzie says, finds a chart. I've examined him. I thought I recognized him. Tease looks him up and down and nods to the healer as I hear the words of Arce. I do want you to be cleared by our healer. I am sure you are in full health, but I am a slaver and my standards are high. One of the men can guide you to the long hall when she is finished. Men always know where the long hall is and can easily keep you in check, okay? Andy 25 Berlin says, I understand and I'll accept anything she does to determine my health. Agreed. T says, and never give me a reason to put a collar on you because understand that is something I would enjoy doing. Andy 25 Berlin says, blushes. I work whiteout collar, that is why I agree. Tease looks at him and again says in a quiet demanding voice, and I suspect you would enjoy it being naked at my feet with a leash on your collar. Andy 25 Berlin says, see, I am not owned by Gimli, I have a business deal. Red-faced and doesn't reply. James says, then you would do well to listen to Tease. Or that will change. T says, Mac, he is yours for now. Let me know if he misbehaves. Coralink says, I'm going over to talk to Muse for a minute. Mackenzie says, folds away the chart. This will be quite different than the first time. Now he is a free man. Same body, different spirit. I can examine him at any point. Here's Tease. I'm ready. T says, a free man, one slave it seems, do get his history to me if you will please, Mac. Mackenzie says, looks to Adrian, no weapons in the infirmary. You must leave them at the door. Andy 25 Berlin says, yes, of course. I stay clothed right. T says, follow all her instructions, Andy. Andy 25 Berlin says, I will. T says, don't give her an excuse to tell me you didn't. Go with her. Andy 25 Berlin says, yes, Mr. I mean slave. Mackenzie says, not if you want it to be called a full examination. The nasty stuff hides out of you. Come with me, please. Andy 25 Berlin says, Slaver groans. Dagny says, well, there's that. Count hands lay to sword's hilt, but trust is met seeing the chiefess and headslaver at ease with verbal persuasion.
Soriel frowns. I still say he owes me a foot.
Count says, brother, sorry if you need a foot, say the word. I say with a chuckle.